everybody, Arnaldo Wolfman here, and I'm standing in front of the VMS 5.0. Now, the VMS 5 is a vast improvement over the VMS 4. I want to show you some of the features, some of the things that I really like about it, and just kind of show you really why there is no controller at a better price point with this many features and a good quality sound. Let's take a look. So right out of the gate, very similar to the VMS 4 in terms of build, okay? American Audio did not use some cheap plastic case like you see in some of the lower end controllers. It's all metal, top and bottom. It's got some weight to it because of it. It does have the little rubber bumpers, so that way if you're, carrying it without a case, God knows what reason, you're still gonna crash up against it. Or if you're using one of the bigger cases, it kind of has a nice little snug fit, but you can pop them off in case your case was made specifically for the VMS 5. From the top, looks very similar to the VMS 4 with a few noticeable changes. Change number one is that it has much bigger jog wheels, and you don't need the little plastic piece around them to prevent from slipping up. If you push the wrong one, then it does a whole different function. I'm really glad they got rid of that. That was driving me nuts. I just like my jog wheels to work as just that, jog wheels. Much, much bigger ones, easier to scratch, spin, cue, whatnot. On the bottom here, of course, we've got our play, pause, cue, but this A and B button. Now this is pretty exciting because right out of the box, the VMS 5 works with Virtual DJ 8 in a special 4-deck mode. So VDJ 8's got the skin for it, but this means you can actually run 4 decks right out of this. And you can also use it with turntables. I know some of you guys like using controls with turntables. With VDJ 8, the sound card does support time code in, so that's always a nice little plus. But if not, you have your individual 4 faders for your 4 decks. Now the other great thing about this one is that it lights up. And I really, really like this because it's not just the buttons individually light up, but the actual knobs. So this is going to allow me to work in complete darkness and still be able to see everything. So you're talking, and it's all color coded too. So you got blue for the bass, orange for the mids, white for the treble. You have all your volume knobs in red. The only ones that don't light up are the effects, but that's because those knobs pretty much spin forever and ever. There's not a specific area of how they're set. So on the left-hand side, we have our microphone controls here in the front with individual gain, treble, mid, and bass for each one, plus the on-off button. In the middle part, we do have our mixer controls. Now remember, this is a MIDI log mixer. This is something that American Audio really helped pioneer, which is the integration of MIDI with traditional analog mixer control. So we can select your USB or analog. So this same mixer can play my Virtual DJ or whatever software I'm using that supports it, or I can go and do analog for CD players or whatever I have hooked up to it, okay? On the bottom part here, we have our crossfader assign, and then you have your sound card, whether you do the 4 out or the 8 out. Now remember that you also have inputs as well in case you're doing time code, but you don't have 8 outputs and inputs. So it's 4. It's either 4 in, 4 out, or you can do the 4 in, or none in and 8 out. On the right-hand side over here, we've got our crossfader option, so we can do normal or reverse, or for us old school people, hamster. And then we have curve. Again, in your curve mix, your headphone port, etc. Make sure you get the proper jack and DJs. Don't ever lend this to anybody because they'll lose it. On the back, we've got a microphone in, so whether you can do XLR or 1/4 inch. We have our RCA in. We have RCA out for booth and for master, plus XLR. You have your USB. This board will run off just USB power alone, but it will drain or put a strain on your computer rather, and also drain your battery. So make sure you use the included 6-volt adapter. And even if you're on a powered USB hub, just have that in there, because one little bump of your USB cable and things get disconnected and it gets all crazy. So I've been doing a lot of live streams as of late, and I actually did a live stream with this guy. I wanted to see, I literally opened out of the box, played around with it. I'd never actually spun on this one before. I've done, on the 4.1 and the 4.0, but I haven't done the 5.0, so I wanted to see how quickly I could get used to it using Virtual DJ 8. I gotta tell you, it's insanely easy to use this. So this is really great, not just if you're a DJ, but if you're a multi-op and you have new guys that you want to train, or you're a rental house and you need something solid, dependable, and affordable, or if you just need a general, audio console that you can wiki with. But more than just that, and I'll cover that in just a second. The audio quality on the VMS 5 has been phenomenal. The USB output or the USB sound quality in general as a sound card, definitely a big improvement over the 4.1 and especially the 4.0. You can really tell the difference, and that's in part because, again, 16-bit 4 to 4.1 kilohertz sound quality out of there, really good. On analog, it is 24-bit 48 kilohertz. Again, you're getting nothing but the best possible sound quality you can imagine. Very low hiss. For those of you guys that, may not necessarily, want to go all crazy as far as scratching and all that, controllers are great for that. If you want to scratch, look, I'm all about the turntables for that, right? But even when you're on a controller, you may want to do a little bit of scratch here and there, but latency can be a killer. Heck, when you're doing some tight mixing, latency can be a killer with certain controllers. That's when you're talking less than a 1 millisecond USB latency time. And that's something you may have not even heard about in a review, and it's not something that, we really talk about, but USB is never instantaneous. There's always a latency, and some controllers are faster than other controllers when it comes to communicating with the computer. So the less time, the better. 1 millisecond, you're not even going to notice that. Look, you could be the Flash, and you're still hardly going to notice that. It's a fast, instantaneous response. Okay, so as far as mixing, tons of different buttons, options. This integrates so tightly with Virtual DJ, it's not even funny. Of course, you got your, your typical suspects, right? Like I said, we've got your play, your cue, you've got your hot cues, you hit your shift button, and now your hot cues become samplers. You can do it as far as looping as well, so you can select whether, and not just loop in, loop out, but you can actually select how long your loop is. You've got your vinyl mode, you've got slip mode. I mean, basically every button that you have here, you shift and it turns into something else. But the most important part, and the part that I really want to stress out, is that everything in here is MIDI. Okay, from the 2,000 point resolution wheel, and by the way, this thing is butter. But everything from the wheel to each individual knob, your center browser controls, your cue buttons, everything that you can touch and turn and control sends a MIDI output. Now, here's why it's really important. If you're using Virtual DJ 8, and you guys know my opinions on different DJ softwares, if not, I'll be doing a video on that soon. Virtual DJ 8, I don't care what you feel about it. It is undeniable. There is no better DJ software when you want full MIDI power. When you're talking about I can literally script and say, I want this button to do this and this and this, and you can do whatever you want Virtual DJ. It's crazy how much power they're giving to the end user. But what this allows you to do is, if, let's say, for example, I had my turntables hooked up, right? So I went to the Dvs mode. Dvs mode means that you have 2 channels in, and then you've got, or 2 channels in, or out. So that way I can do my turntables, right? If I don't have on DVS mode, then I would go into the 4-deck mode, okay? But I have on my turntables, so now I could use these to control my effects. So I can have, like for example, my, let's say phase. If you remember like the old school big pad wheels that you could do effects with, you can do that. Or I could have my turntables here, and I could use these for internal mode, right? So if I'm gonna, if the bass is getting a little bit too much, I can disable my turntables and still control it from there. A lot of cool stuff that you can do with that. If you're not using DJ software, if you're using something like Arceus Media Master or Grand VJ, this is a great board because you've got so many different buttons, knobs, and don't forget the Grand VJ allows you to scratch your videos. So that's pretty cool too. You can actually go all wiki with the visuals as well. And when you're using Grand VJ, there is a mapper made for the VMS 4 that you could natively adapt to the VMS 5.0 without any problems. But that's something that's so cool because, again, everything is mappable. So even if you don't need it for your DJ software, right? Let's say you're like me, you've got your turntables, which, by the way, I love my turntables, but this is really freaking heavy when I'm just doing a 1-hour lunch jam. I'm like, really, I don't want to bring these out? Okay, I'll bring this. Or if I'm doing an event where DJing isn't as important because maybe I'm doing audio or video, but I still need to run a couple of sets, maybe when people are coming in, this is a much nicer way of being able to do that. But the important thing about it is, again, everything is mappable. I cannot stress this enough. So it doesn't matter if you're using laser software, if you're using DMX, if you're using video, you can do it all with your VMS 5.0 as a controller. Just as a controller alone, it's the most affordable controller. With Arceus, I can actually map out sounds still to come out through here, so I can still use this as a sound card. Oh, and if you are a DJ that likes to do everything on your own, meaning no text, I get that, nothing wrong with that. Let's say you're using Virtual DJ and my DMX, right? And I'm not gonna use my this row of buttons here, so I'm gonna unmap them. And now I can actually map these to work with my DMX. Or you could have, let's say you only use 2 decks, right? So now you have deck 1 and 4 that you don't do anything with. Well, you could use this to control maybe your master dimmer on my DMX. And I've done videos on this before, so now you can turn your lights up or bring them down, or you can control different lights from your knobs. It's so cool because, again, you only have one board and multiple functions to do with it. So even though this is bass, mid, and treble, since it's not being hooked up to anything, I can use this to control different aspects of my laser, my DMX, MIDI software, so I can do it all from one easy-to-use control board. That's the American Audio VMS 5.0. I have used it. It's been solid. It hasn't acted up on me, and the newest version of VDJ, Virtual DJ 8, has been super stable. I actually have no complaints about it. It's pretty rare. I won't complain about something. But I'm telling you, this is awesome. For the money, there is no better option out there. And for those of you guys that are really picky on crossfaders, this is a really nice crossfader. It is. Honestly, for a stock board and for something as affordable as the VMS 5.0, it's nice. But I like my Innofader. And did you know that the VMS was actually the first controller to be Innofader compatible? And they haven't broken that. Right here, take this 2 screws out, pops out, good to go. Innofader compatible right away. Volume faders have a little bit of drag, and I like that. I like my fader to be nice, loose, and easy to flick left to right. But I don't want volume faders where I accidentally bump them up and accidentally bring them all the way up. So that feels really nice. Buttons, easy to mash and not worry about them getting stuck. And again, nice big jog wheels. This thing is definitely a big step up over the VMS 4.0. American Audio is definitely doing some really cool and exciting things. Again, built-in sampler, cues, loops. You have your effects. You've got your built-in filter as well. You have a loop roll. There's so many different things, and it's already pre-mapped. That's what's great. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. My name is Untitled Chapter. Any questions, concerns, I don't care about your concerns, any questions, comments, anything like that, please leave them down below. Make sure to subscribe, hit the thumbs up, or if you're one of those weirdos, thumbs down, whatever. But yeah, hit the thumbs up and share with your friends. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a great night, and God bless.